What if faculty or teachers are curators? What if the classroom or the learning management system is the museum? And what if students were members of the museum?
Everybody has a podcast. Like, there's too many podcasts out there now. Like, there's that joke, but also there's something about the format that allows people to not become experts, but feel like experts.
You're listening to Mentor Moments, where we talk about all things counseling, technology, education, and career development. I am Brayton Wooters, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Michael Keener. Grab a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Brayton Wooters.
And I am Michael Keener. Welcome, my friend.
We've already been chatting for I feel like a half an hour before hitting record, talking about this season, talking about plans for next season. I know that we try to round out each season with like a reflective episode, kind of coming to terms. I don't know. This season feels difficult for me to reflect on. I don't know why. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, right? Can you believe we've been doing this for 5 seasons, 5 years now? That's pretty cool, right?
That's insane. Yeah. No, I mean, before we hit record, we were talking about like, what season is this? And Dr. Keener had said 4, and I was like, this feels like 6, and it's 5. And I don't know. That's a 5 years sounds like a lot, but it feels like it's flown. Like, it does not feel like 5.
Well, and two things, again, we started this when you were still a student. And so there's just that transition. And then, again, coming out of the pandemic as well. And I mean, we were sort of past the pandemic. Well, no, it was probably right around that same time, because that's when you were GA and we were sort of going through accreditation too, and you helping me with all our other videos. And I was discovering your many talents that you have. Yes.
It's kind of a cool, I mean, I haven't started that yet because I think it's going to make me feel weird, but like, it's a cool little time capsule of like, if I ever wanted to see like, what was I talking like what was important to me to talk about, I could just go back and look.
Well, it's almost very existential too. Like we're going to, our podcast will be somewhere forever for somebody to find. So our sense of meaning and belonging and who we are,
that's a little scary knowing that. Like, I know that we're not too controversial. Like, we don't really say things that are too outlandish, but like, I do wonder about like 50 years from now, like if I have a grandchild listen to something I say and they go, I can't believe you said that. I don't know.
My dad was a musician in high school, and I remember as a young lad finding his yearbook and then like reading at like comments, and like somebody wrote it, and it sticks with me forever because I wish somebody wrote this. He goes, he was graduating, and my dad always said he was the only drummer for 4 years at our high school at St. Joe's, and whether that was true or not, he always said that's how he got out of trouble, because he was but somebody wrote, rock and roll will never be the same because he was graduating, right? It's like, well, how cool is that? And wait, so even better, so Keener, that's German.
Uh-huh.
In later years, my dad was in a German band and wearing like lederhosen and oompa. I mean, this is good stuff, But so yeah, we never know where life will take us and how we'll be.
The time capsule effect. But I totally get that. I and you mentioned whenever we started this podcast, I was like a GA, but like I think about like developmentally, I have like there are episodes now of me as an intern, like just beginning practicum, getting my first job, getting my first counselor supervisor job, and like there's episodes about me in Lindenwood. So it is a very cool developmental thing.
Yeah, and for me, there's more episodes of me just getting gray hair in my chin here and my beard. So
more and more obscure references that are how outdated can the reference get each.
How much can I talk about Maryville wrestling in each episode? Maybe is it?
And so I like reflecting on 5 years. I guess what I mean about reflecting on this year and the difficulty that I have is that sometimes I'm able to parse out like a theme from each like season, and for some reason I'm having a harder time this time.
Well, okay, what I enjoyed, and we mentioned this sort of before we were recording, I enjoyed switching to just having more you and I conversations about whether it's just fun, laughing, or getting into different things. To me, that again, I think that was a nice shift for multiple reasons. We're the hosts, and I hope we are connecting with people, and I want people to turn into us and also to our guests. And then yet, I guess to be transparent, I mean, we're doing this for fun, right? Like, I mean, yes, we originally tried to do this as a collaboration between the Rehabilitation Counseling and Missouri Rehab Association. We're still connected with the Rehab Association, but it's really just, let's give an outlet. Let's just have a conversation and see what happens. And so, guests are important, but maybe, there is a little bit, I'm getting lost in the weeds, not having this pressure of every 2 weeks having a new guest to then interview, right? So the theme was that we didn't have a theme. Maybe we can go that way. So
exactly. And I remember at the beginning of the season, I think part of it was like fear based on my end, where I was like, okay, if it's just us, then we need to have like a plan. We need to like, at least if we're not going in with like a specific thing, then we need to have like programmatic things. And we did that for a little bit. And then I think we realized we didn't need to, like, I don't need to have like, hey, this is the next thing that we're talking about. It's very much, that's kind of the whole point of this, is that we don't need that.
no, organic. I mean, that was fun, but being organic or free flowing is also fun. And
Exactly.
it makes me think back to some, what were some, I'm going to put you on, being reflective, not only this year, but all 5 years. Do you have a favorite episode or moment? Is there a favorite mentor moment?
Oh boy, I get a lot of value, and I think that you can probably agree with me on this, is that I get a lot of value out of highlighting people that I just already know and I'm pretty like connected to. Whenever I have individuals in my life that I'm like, oh wow, you're so amazing, you're so smart, you've like really helped me grow as a therapist. Now all I want to do is like put you like in the spotlight, like give you like the chance to like, I want to return the favor in some way and show just how awesome you are. So I do think about those individuals in my life who have directly affected me. And part of that is just because I'm human. And I think about these people that, made the biggest impact on my life, like just from a career standpoint, but also just a life standpoint as well. So, I mean, just individuals who have been my prior supervisors. I mean, I think of Crystal, I think of Christy, I think of, just other individuals who like, even from Youth in Need, who like have impacted me just from a career base that I can go, hey, you've been really like influential and impactful in my life. I want to highlight you in some way, shape or form. So I do think of those experiences, but then I also think about, I like the direction that we're beginning to go, or that we have been going these last 2 episodes, where we've gone, I want to be careful how I word this. Like, I don't want to mean forward, but like individuals who are like more developed in their careers than I am. And now these last 2 episodes, we're going back a little bit, where now we're getting students on the podcast, which sounds like a duh thing. Sounds like, yeah, of course we should do that. Like we should go not backwards, but we should look at the people who aren't a different part of their development. And I'm thinking out loud now, like that is something that I would like to continue in some capacity, because I think that is an aspect to our podcast that we might have either missed or been too excited to talk to people who are maybe further in life, that now when we talk to people like Katie or talk to your wrestlers who are at, a different part in life, that connects and resonates in a totally different way. Those are my.
Maybe there's a more of a separation from you too. I mean, we did a few of your classmates early on, but maybe again, it's hits a little bit different now that you're a few years post graduation as well. But certainly, I think book it, right. You heard it here first for season 6. Let's engage with more college students.
Well, and I think that there's. And that's something that I like about like just a podcast in itself. There's the joke of like everybody has a podcast. Like there's too many podcasts out there now. Like there's that joke, but also there's something about the format that allows people to not become experts, but feel like experts on their lives. And there's not too many opportunities, I think, where like you can feel empowered to talk about your life in a way that's like, okay, you're asking me these questions about my life and I'm the expert on my life. I don't know. There's just something empowering about that I don't know that a lot of people get in their lives. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So those are highlights for me. What are highlights?
Well, I mean, it's always a highlight because when we're in the moment with whoever our guest is or just the two of us, hopefully we're being present and we are engaging, right? And again, even if nobody listens, we're benefiting from it, right? I know that's very generic. I enjoyed going into season 2 and doing the 3-episode deep dive with Anna Zielinski. I think that was our try at more deep investigative, like let's have, again, something a little bit more a longer piece, really trying to sort of hit different career stages. Tommy and Katie Wolf, when, both being counselors and then also being married. It was sort of a fun episode. And, typically we're doing a half hour, but that one went over. So we got to do a 2 episode with them as well. And that was sort of I guess, from a listener perspective, fun or a lot of listens. But so that one, but really, again, I guess they're all, I think of some of our bigger wigs that we've interviewed, Steve Wooters and Chris Claus. Just, I don't know. Again, it's nice that people, Tim Gaines, it's nice that they wanted to promote, not necessarily promote, but engage with us, on our Mentor Moments podcast,
Yeah, I also think about like the skills that I'm learning, like the skills that I'm growing in through this. You mentioned Anna Zielinski's episode and how we did like 3 episodes because like I think we already had like kind of like a story already, like a narrative already kind of written out or planned out. And I like how I think with some guests that we've had, like just the way that we've gone through and like the narrative just kind of writes itself that I like. And I'm finding that I've carried some of those skills and tools into the therapy room where like as I'm asking questions, I'm getting a better idea of kind of like a start and a beginning and an end of my clients. And that's a skill that I've learned a lot just through doing this, is just kind of finding the beats as we're going and like noticing, oh, hey, you mentioned this thing. And I know that we have like a set of questions that we want to get to, but I'm so interested in this little tiny tidbit that you just mentioned. I'm going to come back to that and hope that, that it turns into something. And it almost always does. It turns into something that leads us down another pathway. So I like getting to kind of work on those skills and those tools of like intentionally following these paths.
I often think about Conan O'Brien and other late show guests, like, have we developed, I do think you're a good interviewer. I think you have developed, again, maybe this is what you're getting at, like an ability to ask good questions. So that's sort of fun to see and be a part of. And maybe Harvard will ask the two of us to keynote their commencement next year. Yeah.
My goodness, I have so many thoughts. Well, I wrote my newsletter on it. So on those keynotes, we're getting off track. Well, actually, I don't care. What did you think about? Have you seen those? The ones that I'm talking about, the ones about AI, where like they'll mention the AIs at the commencement, and then they'll get booze from the. I just think that's so interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm sure I said this before when we were talking about my sabbatical. I often wonder what side of history. Again, we sort of talked about this too. Like, what side of history am I on? Am I rotting people's brain by wanting to use more AI, or am I enhancing learning in some way? I don't have an answer for the sustainability piece of AI. But I also, again, this isn't, and again, we, before recorded, we talked about maybe doing a debate, or at least having, multiple people have a question. And I don't know, I think as a planet needs to do better with sustainability. So like, I guess sometimes I hope the people who are complaining about sustainability are also recycling at home or composting or what, like they're just not using it as a way to blast AI. Like, like, because again, I know there's a lot that we all can do about, I don't know, watching energy use, or I'm getting maybe in the weeds, but I am, though, going back to AI, then I'll let you, like, I am thinking about, maybe we can save this. Maybe this is another teaser, right, for season 6. So I'm interested in how we learn from going to museums, right, versus how we learn in a class. And doing some investigation with that, I found a term that I was lacking, that there's formal learning, which is higher ed, like you need to go to these classes or this course or these. Informal learning would be things that we'd learn like on the job or like going to a museum. So it's not tied to this grade per se or accumulation of a course or whatnot, but there's still, you're learning how to develop as a counselor. That's still learning. It's just, again, not tied to CEU or whatever. Going to a museum or an art gallery or some other cultural institution, you're maybe going for some kind of intrinsic reason, but then you were learning. And then there's spontaneous learning, which is, okay, oh, I never saw that. So to me, I think I use AI informally, right? Because I am not in school. And to me, that frees me from this idea of cutting corners, using it to cut corners. How do I take that back into higher ed? I am re-looking at ways to embed AI to increase informal learning versus using it like, here's a paper, here's a rubric, upload the paper based on this rubric, and it can, to me, that, not that can help, but that's more, it's tied to a point, right? Where I'd rather have the outcome tied to internal motivation to learn. And I actually had a student on a end of course eval kind of say something similar, which reinforced like that they enjoyed using these study apps and research methods that wasn't tied to points, right? So that they could play with it, not worrying about getting something wrong or right. Or so I guess, how does that turn to AI? We're like on the right side of history again. How are we using it to support learning and not bypass learning? I guess
I would agree with you. You're mentioning so many things that are like firing things in my brain. That you mentioned museum learning, and I do think about content and process, which is like the content in which we're trying to learn. For me, and I might be speaking anecdotally here, which is that it's easier for me to do this kind of process, like informal learning, whenever the topic or the content that I'm trying to learn is not like right brain specific. I think about math and engineering and how we get informal learning through that. And I feel like I'm not an engineer. I am not, mathematical by any way, shape, or form. So I have a hard time imagining ways in which I can, learn math skills from an informal process. And the reason why I'm coming to this conclusion is full circle moment. My freshman year of college at Maryville, I didn't really know a whole lot about intersectionality, culture, multiculturalism, cultural humility, any of those other topics. My freshman year, Maryville encouraged the students to go through this thing called the tunnel of consciousness, and I don't know if they still do this or if they do a different version of it. And so for some freshman classes, they would dedicate one of the classes to just go through it. And I think about that because what that literally was walking through what felt like a small, almost museum type of learning, where you could, if you wanted to, just speed run the thing. You could put your eyes down, not look around, and just go from point A to point B and leave and not learn a single thing. You went through it, you did it, and you're done. Or you could go through it and go in with an open mind, and it was up to your choice on what parts of the tunnel you wanted to spend time on, which was, as you're going through the tunnel, there are different like exhibits almost of different multicultural pieces. Things about privilege, things about immigration, things about intersectionality, things about policing and things like that, things that are history related to our country. And so a lot of people it was up to them on what they wanted to spend their time on. If they wanted to spend time here a lot reading everything, or skip this part because they made them uncomfortable, or they wanted to learn, or they knew everything that was already there, they would go to a different part. I think about that, and I love the way that learning was presented. If it was given to me in like a curriculum, it wouldn't have been as impactful. I don't think that if it was given to me from a curriculum, almost like formal learning standpoint, it wouldn't have connected with me had it been through this other means of almost museum-esque informal learning. Last point, which is that let's say that it wasn't multiculturalism. Let's say that it wasn't this like concept topic thing, and it was more hard skills. Like, you're going to go through the tunnel of I don't know, differential equations. And that would just feel so strange. Then I wouldn't want to learn that way. I'd want a curriculum. I'd want standardized tests to know what I'm doing. I want practice rounds and things like that. So I do think about like time and place, like what content excels best with informal versus formal learning. I just said a lot there. Yeah.
It makes me think of developmentally appropriate practice, right? There's a reason why we don't expect a toddler to be able to cut on the lines, right? And so if we want them to practice scissors, just give them the scissors and let them cut however they want, right? Or that, so I think there is, again, what is developmentally appropriate, again, for AI? How do we introduce AI, reinforce it and mastery? But so how do we, again, teach different concepts? And I also wonder, going back to your sort of maybe engineering math brain, because I did this with a group of faculty. I did this exercise where I had them think of what would be an artifact from their discipline, right? And I had an accounting/finance professor say, well, we really don't. But then she took a step back and said she had old car brochures. So back in the day, in the 50s or whatever, you would get this brochure on the car, and it would have the different color schemes, the different trim levels, and so she was able to use that as this way to kind of talk about stocks, right? And so, okay, she did have historic, sometimes it might just make us think about it. And another way of thinking about it is maybe it's not the artifact itself, but it's how we use the artifact to help us think about it. So one of the artifacts, it was the activity that I did. I took everybody has the Stanley's water bottles, or what's the other big name?
Hydro Flask.
What was it?
Hydro Flask.
Yeah, and there's another, like the Yeti coolers.
Yeti.
Right? And, everybody wants the stickers on it. So I had AI generate a water bottle with some stickers that was clearly used under glass, right? And so in 100 years, what would we see with this artifact, right? So part of it is just training our brain to say, what do you see? What do you wonder? What do you know? What do you question about? And so some of it is just this frame to help us then get into this new topic. You made the distinction between sort of learning in this museum format versus learning in a classroom. And that, I'm starting to write a new article, and what my opening 2 paragraphs is, the first one is, what kind of emotions do you experience when you're going to a museum, or think about your favorite museum, right? Maybe it's excitement. Maybe you did a little extra homework because it's on a topic that you're already excited about. Maybe you're going to the Holocaust Museum, and so you're coming in more guarded or ready for a meaningful experience versus a joyful one, right? Maybe you want to pay respect, or just, so then I kind of, do you stay? Do you go to the gift shop? Do you make a day of it, right? So there's all these, and then I have you think about, well, what kind of experiences do you get when you open up your learning management system, right? Did you do your homework? Are you excited, right? But yeah, it's not a far stretch to say that faculty or teachers are curators, right? I mean, they are creating content, right? So my way of looking at it is maybe the slight shift. What if faculty or teachers are curators? What if the classroom or the learning management system is the museum? And what if students were members of the museum, right? How would we sort of engage in things differently? Again, to me, this is about the informal piece versus I have to do this because it's due by Wednesday. I have to do my true reply. You're doing it to, as you were saying, one, to the end of the tunnel of consciousness versus sort of embrace the tunnel of consciousness. And then there's this whole nother movement of, many times when we teach, we are directing the learning. But when you go to a museum, there's sort of a path you're supposed to go through, but you can run to the back and then come back up, or you can go to an art gallery, and there's multiple different ways you can go. So you're really using more of a constructivist perspective. You're using your past experiences to interpret this new thing that's in front of you versus being told, this is the theory, this is why, it's the theory, this is, like it's a,
Yeah.
so again, I would love for us to, again, online education maybe is a little bit easier. Like if you open up the entire 8 weeks at once, start anywhere you want, or even if you open up this week's model, there's no saying you need to start at page 1. Maybe you start at the last page and go the other way. Like how can we better?
And I think that's why I get so stuck. I think that's the reason why and I'm speaking from a very I want to recognize my biases, which is that my bias is to look at anything that looks like math and go, ugh. Which I do think about that, which is how would somebody regarding math do that? Because it's such a step one. You can't learn how to do a graph until you learn how to do XYZ. So I do wonder about that.
Well, I was thinking that Temple Grandin, have you came across Temple? She is a woman she has autism, and she thinks in pictures.
Well, there's a movie about her.
Right. Well, she's still alive, and she's sort of quite famous. But there is a scene in one of the movies where she's working a gate and trying to get a better way to get the gate to work. But she's doing it versus visually in her brain versus sort of writing it out. So again, I think I worked with a guy from St. Patrick's Center one time that he said he saw in physics principles. So kind of similar, he thought, I think I said that, right?
Well, I mean, and you're also touching on themes that I've written about, which I think I know they didn't start in psychedelic psychedelic therapy, but they're used quite a lot, which is set and setting, which is that psychedelic or psilocybin assisted therapy tends to work a lot better whenever set and setting are defined and a lot of time spent on them. So set being you're going in with an intention. So exactly what you said, when we're going into this museum, what's our intention and that depends typically on the topic or the time of the day. What's our feeling? What are we trying? And then setting, which is how is the world around us allowing us to accomplish these things? So a psychedelic influenced therapy doesn't work very well when you're in a very almost a hospital setting. It tends not to do well as effectively. And so I do think about, is Canvas a well suited setting for learning? And whenever I open it up, is it really helping my brain influence it, or is just the way that it's set up? And I think that's a reason why whenever I was in college, I had some friends that spent so much time, I don't know if you've ever done this, changing the colors on their subjects. I had a friend who she was meticulous about making the colors all match and making them all kind of follow a theme. And I remember thinking and going that is you're spending so much time on this, move on, just go do your assignments. Only to realize that I think that she was building setting to slowly get herself into a place that was more enjoyable when she did open Canvas up. Cool. I'm making connections. We're not even talking about.
I know. I realized we sort of took a left turn here.
That's totally fine. I guess any way to kind of bring this back to reviewing the season. I don't have, the hard numbers, but whenever I look at our graphs and stuff like that, our highest jumps in listen volume were this season, which I think is cool. Not saying that it's all a numbers game, obviously, but it's cool. It's cool to see. And our goal was to get as close as we can to doubling our output. And I think that we knew that we could do that, just given how much we can talk. And we got pretty close to doubling our out. Counting this episode, this is 16 episodes. And I should look at what the data says on the average podcast length, the how long a podcast typically lasts. It's not, I don't think it's 5 years.
Yeah, no, I thought it was 2 years. Let's see what Google says. It's just 147 days and 7 episodes. I mean, we already let the cat out of the bag to all our listeners that we are coming back. So.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, we don't have a specific date in mind, but we typically get rolling again or release the first episode in either August or September. So I mean, it's a quick turnaround. And I know that I'm bringing this full circle. Any themes, anything's just from this season? This season has felt just so, we pulled from so many different places. Are there any? I don't know.
I was being slightly sarcastic, but I think it was true. It was just the theme is spur of the moment, or what were we thinking about this week, this month, this sort of more organic versus trying to overly plan and fit everybody into that theme, as we tried in years past.
It's really what is like most living in our brains. Like my mental toughness one, and then yours, like you like talking about the Gloria tapes, and it is quite literally. I mean, it is a time capsule of what is taking up the space in our brain. It's cool. It's
Space in our brain. This is the theme of space in our brain.
I always ask my clients that. I say, what's taking up a lot of space in your brain? And I forget what answers I typically get, but okay. Well, I mean, I don't really have, I do we end this with a mentor moment? I don't even know if like there's like an advice that I'd give.
Well, no, we want to leave, we're not going to give you one so you come back for next season. So this is our cliffhanger.
There it is. I love that. Any last thoughts, feelings, questions?
Well, just thanks for all our guests through the last 5 years, and to our future guests and to the listeners. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been one of the, I love getting to do this. I love getting to be creative in this space. I love getting to talk. I love getting to learn. I just feel super grateful for this, and a goal that we'd like is to get a lot of people back. We'd like a lot of the people who we've had on prior episodes to come back. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I've been on, I was on an episode like 2 or 3 years ago. Like we're coming for you. We are coming for you. We're getting you back.